What's up, my dudes? We out here keeping her wicked on the wick, dog. 2020 Southwick National. So, I know over the years of me playing All Out, there's been quite a few of you guys that have recommended that I go in here and do one of the little tuning setup things, right? I know a lot of you dudes have been kind of recommending that I do that because apparently it changes quite a bit in this game, like a lot, especially ever since they did that little, whoa, dude, this track's pretty sick, especially since they did that little update where they added all the, like, chassis adjustments, you know, that one, whoa, Spence, calm her down there, boy. We do a little 360 cartwheel no-scope backflip. Yeah, so anyways, point being, I went in here and did one of the, like, recommended all-around 450 setups or whatever, so I should be able to sort of hook up in the corners a little bit better and get around the track a little better here. Either way, I'm just waiting on this track to get a little roughed up here. So, yeah, interesting how... So, we've never had a Southwick track before. Oh, my God. You know, we didn't get a Southwick track with the last AMA National DLC pack. So, this is a whole brand new track that we've never gotten before, right? And this is also one of the, basically the only full sand track in the circuit series game, right? Basically the only, like, full-blown super deep sand track. So you can definitely tell a little bit. One thing I'm noticing here is that you can definitely tell they kind of struggle a little bit here to get that, like, full-blown deep soft sand feeling, right? It's almost like you're riding on more of a harder, like, bottom layer of sand, like bottom hard pack layer of sand, or like Millville, more hard packy type loam. You know, that's almost what it kind of gives me the feeling more like of actual, like, super deep Southwick sand, right? A little more like how Sandwick would be on Reflex. You know how soft that track feels. You know how much cushion there is to the dirt, you know, cushion there is to the sand on those super sand tracks on Reflex, right? They feel completely different than the other tracks. And I feel like they might be struggling a little bit here with this Southwick on MX vs. ATV All Out to get it where it really has that full-blown, super-duper soft, cushiony sand feeling. Like, it's still a fun track, still feels pretty cool, but I can just tell they're kind of struggling a little bit to capture that aspect in particular, you know? Whenever you really think about what a Southwick would actually be like, right? So, but, you know, it's hard to do that. I mean, that's just the truth of it. It's hard to get where you've got a totally different... I don't know how they did that on Reflex. They were doing some magical, way ahead of its time, dirt, cushion, hard pack, soft, you know, rut, terrain deformation, the whole 9 yards. I don't know how they were doing that on Reflex. I don't know how they were able to capture that so far back in Reflex where, like, the hard pack tracks feel completely different than the sand tracks. The sand tracks feel completely different than the normal brownie mix dirt tracks, and all of them seem to have a little bit of a different, like, terrain deformation to them and how they build ruts. Like, the sand tracks seem to make soft, blowed out sand ruts and more of a terrain deformation, whereas when you get on the hard pack dry blue groove tracks, they don't seem to rut up as much. It all does just about exactly what you think it would do in real life. And it's so crazy how they were able to capture that on Reflex so well. It just blows my mind when I go back and think of that. It's just insane how well they were able to capture the different types of dirt compounds and different types of, like, cushions to the dirt, you know, and sand feeling completely different than normal dirt. It's just crazy how they were able to do that. This, to me, almost feels a little more like a... like I'm saying, I don't know, there's just somewhat of a harder feeling to the dirt itself. I want to say sand because that's really what it is, what it's supposed to be, right? Obviously Southwick sand, but this in particular just feels a little more hard packy. It almost to me feels like you took a sand track and then just like scraped all the top layer of the soft sand off of it, and you just have that like, you know, bottom hard packy layer of it, right? That's a little bit more like what this feels like. And you guys know me. I give you my real opinions. I'm honest about everything I say. You know, you're going to have a lot of people going to hop in here. A lot of these YouTubers are going to be like, oh, look at this new Southwick track. Oh, my God, it's perfect. It's amazing. Look at it. Oh, man. Oh, there's nothing wrong with it. When in reality, dog, like, this doesn't really feel like soft sand. It just doesn't. Like, I don't know what else to tell you, but, like, this just doesn't. I mean, right here, it kind of captures it a little bit. There's a couple little places it does kind of start to capture that a little more, but, like, it's still just a little more hard packy, a little more, you know, not as soft, cushiony, like what you would think of when you think of Southwick blowed out sand. You know what I mean? It's just not quite to that level, in my opinion. And that's just me being honest about it, right? Like I say, you're going to get a lot of these YouTubers out here that are going to act like there's nothing wrong with anything that any of these motocross games do. Everything's just all fine, hunky-dory, positive. Let me never lose a subscriber, so let me stay neutral about everything. Let me act like nothing's wrong with anything. I cannot tell you how many YouTubers do that. It absolutely disgusts me because they're really just being dishonest. They're really being ingenuine. It's fake. That's all it really comes down to at the end of the day. So I hope a lot of you guys can, you know, appreciate, even if you disagree with some of my opinions, you can appreciate me being a little more real, a little more straight up, a little more honest with you about things, and not just sugarcoating everything and holding back what I actually think and, you know, actually telling you what my real opinion is. Most YouTubers just don't even do that. And that's why I can't even hardly stand to watch any of these other motocross gaming YouTubers, because that's all it is. You get on there, no matter what it is. Oh, look at this new track. It's great. It's amazing. Look at this new game. You know, look at this new motocross game. Oh, this is all great. This is so amazing. You know, it's just like, it seems like that's all it ever is, man. And when they do find something that's absolutely god-awful, terrible, just inexcusable, you know, just a terrible thing, they'll be like, well, I think this one little thing could have been a little bit better, but, you know, they don't even really, like, tell it like it is, you know what I mean, Doug? So, either way, it's not like a bad track. I'm not trying to say this is like a bad track. It just, to me personally, feels like it's not quite capturing the softness, the true super Southwicky sand type feeling to the game, and it's understandable. You know, I want to you know, preface that by saying it's understandable, because in reality they would almost have to make a whole different kind of like way that the terrain and the ground filling is and all that just for what, one track. So I can understand how it wouldn't be worth really doing to that extent to try to get it more like soft and sand and all that. I don't really know what goes into that. But that's what makes like what they did with Reflex so much more amazing and so much more astounding, is because they were able to make such different feelings on the on tracks, right? And such different feelings on the terrain deformation, depending on what kind of track you're on. And the different levels of cushion to the dirt it seemed like Reflex had on all the different stock tracks, you know, of the game. It just was crazy to me how they were able to capture that in this game. Like, does this track feel softer and more sandy and loamy than like the Redbud in this game? Yeah, it definitely does. Like, I'm not saying they didn't capture it to some extent, because they definitely did, but just to be 100 with you, I was expecting this to feel a little more sandy, a little more soft, not so hard packed, right? Just kind of feels like you've kind of got like, I don't know, it rained on a sand track and then super dried and all the top layer of the sand scraped off. I don't know how to explain it, but that's a little more like what it actually feels like to me versus like what a Sandwick on Reflex feels like, right? So that's sort of the difference here, but either way, they kind of capture it like a little more right through this whole section, right? They definitely do. I don't know why that section seems to sort of feel different than the rest of the track, but holy rut nut. Oh my God. It's kind of cool how the terrain deformation's like building that rut inside the multiple berms, sand berms of the corner. It's kind of interesting how it's doing that, but yeah, either way, room for improvement for the next game, right? For sure. Definitely cool they had the balls to come out and at least attempt to make a Southwick, right? That's definitely something you have to commend. But yeah. So either way, and like, the setup can sort of affect how soft the dirt feels. Like, I understand that aspect as well. It certainly can. So let me do that real quick. Hang on just a second. All right. So I wanted to come in here with more of like a quote-unquote stock tuning in the game, like what I'm used to riding with in the game, and just kind of see if it, feels a little different to me. So let's see here. Yeah, I mean, I'm getting a little more plushness out of the suspension for sure, but not like a crazy amount, you know what I mean? It still definitely has a bit of that, that just a little more hard packy than I expected. That's all I'm going to kind of say with that. Just a little bit, right? Not like a lot. It's not like, oh my God, this just doesn't feel like Southwick at all. Oh my God, they didn't capture the feeling of Southwick at all, because they definitely did. It's just, there's a certain aspect of it that they're just missing just a little bit of that cushiony, blow the sand berm out. Like, they're missing that just a little bit here. But yeah, with me going back to that stock tuning, it definitely feels a little quote-unquote softer, right? Suspension can kind of trick you into thinking a certain like dirt compound is a little more cushiony or not cushiony. It can definitely sort of trick you in that sense. And I'm not like a big tuning, guy in this game. I haven't really gotten deep like that into this game, but yeah, either way. Yeah, the roughness is nowhere near as like abrupt and rough feeling with the stock setup in the game versus what I was running in the game, or what I was running right there. That sort of like all around whatever recommended 450 tuning thing that they had, right? So, I mean, yeah, it definitely has a softness to it, but you can just tell all of the tracks in All Out have more of a similar feeling to each other than like the stock tracks on Reflex, right? You can certainly tell that. I mean, I don't even really know. I don't even really think I need to say that. Like, all you dudes that know Reflex and have really played all those stock tracks quite a bit, those are some of the most like different track compound, different feeling tracks you will ever find in any motocross game out there, period. And All Out, yeah, it does capture different vibes when you go from like Redbud to Millville to whatever, all the Washougal, right? It can definitely capture some different vibes, but you can tell they just all have a little bit more of a similar feel than like the Reflex tracks, right? So, they all have a little bit more of a similar like cushiony feel. No matter if you're on a Millville or a Redbud, they all have a little bit more of a similar cushiony feel, similar terrain deformation feel. But Reflex is the GOAT. It's hard to compete with Reflex. It really is. Like, even to this day, it's just hard to compete with Reflex. It don't matter what you try to say or do or whatever. It's just hard to compete. But a couple cool little kind of jump nearly up the top of that hill right there. You can probably do that if you actually hit it right? But yeah, I don't know. There's just a certain there's a certain feeling that's missing here of like actually feeling like you're sunk down in the sand itself. You know what I'm saying? There's just a certain little element here where, yeah, the dirt does have a little bit of a cushiony feel to it and a little bit of a softness feel to it, but it still just kind of feels like you're on that top layer of the terrain, and that's it. You know, you don't really feel like you're sunk down in the terrain like you would expect on a full-blown Southwick sand track, or like it is on the Sandwick track on Reflex. I mean, that really feels like you are down in the terrain. So I don't know. I just think they definitely can, room for improvement on that sort of aspect for the next MX vs. ATV game for sure. Because it's very important to have those different kind of track compounds and track fillings and all that. It just adds so much longevity to a game, because it makes all the tracks, the more different you can make all the tracks feel, like as far as cushion and terrain deformation and, the rut designs and the roughness designs and all that, the more different you can make them all feel, the more longevity the game's going to have, the more replayability the game's going to have. The more similar everything feels like, it just kind of feels like you're riding on the same track on a different place with a different layout and different jumps. So you got to be kind of careful of that, right? I think they've done a decent job overall on MX vs. ATV All Out of making all the tracks feel different, but definitely can improve for their next game for sure. So either way, not a bad track, just not quite as Southwicky as I was necessarily expecting. Southwicky, there's a word for you, Doug. South Wikipedia. But either way, you can kind of cheese cut that whole line right there. You can jump to the left, or actually go to the left of that jump face and not even really jump off of it. That might be a little bit of a cheater line there, but yeah, either way, it definitely captures some of the Southwick feeling when you get going down some of these really fast areas like that. It's pretty cool. So either way, appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Later, dudes.